Hi folks, it's Marvin Music with MedicareSchool.com, and we want to welcome you to our event this evening. Glad to have you with us, and trust our time together will be profitable for you and also enjoyable, helpful as we dive into some of the issues tonight about Medicare as well as Social Security. Want everyone to know as we go into this, we like to always let you know that as you put your questions in the chat, be sure that we can understand them. I know sometimes you're very brief, and we appreciate the brevity, but sometimes so brief that we don't know exactly what you're asking. So be sure that we're very clear about your questions so that we can give you some good advice. All right, and secondly, if you need immediate assistance, our switchboard is still open. Some of you may find yourself in a position where you're down the wire and need to talk to someone immediately. And so the 800 number, the 833 number is there on the screen. If you call in, our switchboard is open until 7 p.m. We're actually in Central Time. We're in a suburb of Kansas City called Overland Park, Kansas. And so we're open tonight till 7, and then tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So feel free to call in if you'd like to do that. All right. Also, if you're not a member of our Facebook group, I'd love to have you be a part of that. Or if you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, we spend a tremendous amount of time and love being able to put material together so that you can learn more about Medicare. Our view about Medicare is that before you start making any kind of decisions, you need to have a good basic understanding of what you're doing. The last thing we want you to do is make a move into a plan and then regret that decision, because sometimes people make decisions and they cannot reverse those. And we just hate to see that happen. So we believe that the relationships start with education, a good foundational knowledge so that you can be confident in your Medicare choices. All right, so that being said, let's talk just briefly about our topic tonight. And that is this issue of don't call the insurance companies, okay? And we are insurance brokers, and you're probably saying, well, why would they say don't call the insurance companies, do this instead? And what we mean by that is don't call the insurance companies direct. All the large insurance companies, whether that's United Healthcare or that's Humana, that's going to be Cigna, that'd be Aetna, Aflac, whoever. Those are all the main insurance companies. And so we recommend not calling them direct for actually several reasons. And all these are important. I'm not listing these in the order of importance. They're all really critical. But let's go through why our advice is not to call the insurance companies direct. The first one is this: when you call an insurance company direct, you're dealing with what we refer to as a captive agent. Captive agent. That means that they're an employee of that insurance company. They work for that carrier and only that carrier. That means they're beholden to their employer. And most certainly they're going to tell you that they have the best plan. I guarantee you call all of them, each of them will say, well, we have the best. Well, we know that's not true. No one's going to have the best for every scenario. That's just impossible. But that's exactly what they're going to say. And they're going to tell you why they have the best option for you. And so the whole point is they're captive. They're not going to give you any options beyond the portfolio of products that they represent with their company. And again, if you've called one insurance company, it's going to be very limited. Right now, just in Medicare Advantage plans alone, there's well over, I think it's like 3,700 plans. And all those plans are amongst about 15 different carriers. There are a variety of Medicare supplemental plans. They all have letters, A, B, C, D, F, G, K, L, M, and N. And so when you're talking to a captive, that captive company may only write a couple of those plans. And so the whole point is whether it's Advantage, whether it's SUPs, you're going to be limited. Same thing when it comes to drug plans. There are primarily right now about 8 or 9 different drug plan providers in any given market with about 15 to 20 different plans. And so if you've called a captive agent, they're only going to talk about their one plan. And it may be a good fit, but it may be the worst fit for you. And so that's reason number one. I'd encourage you, don't call the insurance carrier direct, because you're going to be talking to a captive agent that represents a limited amount of products. The second reason is because typically that agent that you're talking to is only going to be able to help you with insurance only. That's it. And frankly, that's all they want to do, because that's how we make money, writing insurance plans. But there's other things involved in your Medicare decision. Namely, is it the right time to go on Medicare? Most of those folks have no clue whatsoever. They just ask you, do you have your Medicare number? And then they can help you. But sometimes people want to engage in a conversation to really figure out, is this the right time to go on Medicare? Because some of you are still working and you're covered by an employer-provided plan. And you're going to keep working, or maybe it's your spouse that's working and is going to keep working. And you have this employer-provided plan option available to you. And if there's 20 employees on the payroll, and that's full-time, part-time, but 20 employees on the payroll or more, you actually don't have to do anything with Medicare. You don't have to do Medicare A, you don't have to do Medicare B. And so the point is, you may want to engage in a conversation to see if going on Medicare is really in your best interest if there's another employer option available. And again, most of those agents have no idea to show you how to make that comparison. They're just going to try to convince you, yeah, that's the best thing to do, instead of taking the time to really understand what you have now to make sure it does make sense going on Medicare. Now, some of you are going on Medicare. You're no longer working, but what's going to happen, you're going to call them, and maybe you're not yet taking Social Security. Therefore, you're going to have to enroll in Medicare A and B. 99.9% of them have no idea how to help you and walk you through that process of enrolling into A and B. Some of you are already past 65 and you're 67 or 69 and you're ready to retire. You're going to come into Medicare using a different enrollment process, different paperwork. That's called SEP, Special Enrollment Paperwork. This period of time that you have, and it's a different enrollment process. Again, 99.9% of those agents with these insurance companies are going to have no clue about how to walk you through, guide you through that process so that paperwork is going to be done properly, it's done on time, and giving you the direction you need to make sure it's submitted to the right agency. So the point is, they're not going to be able to help you with SEP paperwork. Let's say you're high income and you have that additional surcharge called an IRMA. They're not going to know about that. And they're not going to be able to explain the IRMA process, nor if you had a life-changing event, how to appeal your IRMAs. Again, a knowledgeable, experienced broker that knows his business will be able to walk you through the process. And so the whole point is this. I just think when you call an insurance company direct and you need something just beyond an insurance plan, you need other information, other advice, other direction, then again, calling a broker is going to be your best option. Number three, the majority of insurance companies today, when you call in, they are going to push Medicare Advantage plans. Now, frankly, half of all people get those, so it is certainly a good fit for some people, but for others, it's not a good fit. Though they'll try to spin it, make it sound like that you're crazy if you don't take an Advantage plan. After all, they give you a free gym membership. After all, they give you a little dental benefit and hearing aids. And so, well, there's more to an insurance plan than that. Yes, the insurance company will push Medicare Advantage because they make more money from the government on those plans, but is it going to be the best fit for you? Some of you, yes, it is, but some of you, it's not going to be the best fit. And again, they're going to be very biased because that's what their company wants them to push and sell, because there's a tremendous amount of profit with Medicare Advantage plans. Okay, number fourth reason I wouldn't call them direct is there's a tremendous amount of turnover in these companies because you're going into a call center. Now, by the way, folks, we do the majority of our business by phone, which is fine. It's a fine process today. Insurance companies made it very simple since COVID to do that. But when you call into a call center, every time you call in, you're going to get a different agent. Sometimes they're rookies, sometimes they're not trained well, other times maybe they're decent, but you have no idea what you're going to get. And so typically with a broker, you're going to get someone that's going to be experienced, someone that understands how to go through a discovery process to find out exactly what you need, instead of just pushing a product down your throat. And so the whole point is call centers have lots of turnover and sometimes agents not trained very well. The fifth reason would be this. You're not going to save any money. Some people feel like, hey, if I call the carrier direct, I'm going to save money. That's not possible at all. And the reason for that is because whether you went to us as a broker or anyone else or a captive agent, an insurance company, the premiums are set by the insurance companies, not by us. They establish those premiums. So that's across the board. So if you called ABC Insurance Company and you looked at a plan G or a plan N, and the premium they quote would be the very same thing we're going to quote. We all write the same plans at the same premium. So the point is, you're not going to be able to save any money by going that direction. So why not reach out to someone that can really provide some substantial help, give you those options that you need, go through all the details of this whole process of getting enrolled into Medicare to make sure you're doing everything correctly. Just two more reasons. One would be the majority of these companies, when you call them and you become their client, you're basically just another number, one among hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And so what happens is when you have a problem, you'll never get back to anyone that was helped you originally. They're going to actually take your call and transfer you almost always to an international offshore call center. You're not going to be talking to someone probably whose primary language is English. It's going to be secondary, almost always. You're going to be in the Philippines. You're going to be in India. You're going to be in China. But you're going to be in some offshore call center where maybe you can understand them, maybe not. But many times I find they don't really know Medicare that well. But that's what companies do today to save money. They farm out their customer service to these offshore call centers. And that's the experience you're going to have. And that can be, frankly, very, very frustrating. And then lastly, how about the future? You call an insurance company, they're happy to write a plan for you. But how about in the future? You could have problems. Who are you going to call then? But if you want to switch a plan, you're going to have to go through that same process again. Call an agent, get someone that may be trained, maybe not, that's kind of biased in what their approach is, very limited on what the options are, versus you work with someone like us. What happens? It's time to switch. We're going to take the time to make sure that you know what's involved in your options. And the premium choices, the stability of the carriers that are out there, because again, we're going to look at a multitude of options, a multitude of companies to make sure that when you switch, it's going to save you money and truly make sense. All right, so the whole point is, I believe the reason I wouldn't call an insurance company direct is because you're not going to have the experience that you really need and, frankly, the experience that you deserve. So my encouragement is reach out to a broker. We'd love for that to be us, but it's not us. Just someone that will care enough about you to take the time to give you all your options, to do price comparisons, to shop everything for you, to make sure that you're on the right plan, and then be there for you when you have a customer service problem in the future. And those things happen for sure, and then especially if you need to switch plans as well. All right, and so hopefully these things are helpful, and we'd be delighted to give you any assistance and serve as your broker. All right, so I'm going to take questions now. Daniel's our producer. He's going to give those to me. Daniel, let's get started. I'm ready. All right, Philip, I'm in Texas. How late can my wife call a number to ask questions? The number, Dan, you want to put that, it's there at the bottom, Philip. You see it, 833-833-3661. And right now, where I am, it's 5:15 Central Time, so this office is open for another hour and 45 minutes. So you can call in right now. And when you call in to our switchboard, I think we have 8 or 9 different receptionists. And so, because we get thousands of calls every day. So the point is just tell them why you're calling, and they'll transfer you to a live agent, someone that, by the way, I know personally, someone that I've trained, that will be able to give you the assistance that you need. All right, so you can call in right now for sure. And then if tomorrow it's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Fridays. All right, does Medicare and a Supplemental Plan G cover varicose vein procedure? Okay, here's the way that's going to work. The answer is possibly. They will. Now, there are some rules for varicose vein type of procedures. And so whoever you're going to go to, whoever that that kind of doc would be, I would call them and ask them what is necessary to get that service covered, because that doctor wants to get paid. And so you ask them the exact procedure that is necessary, because I definitely know it's covered, but there could be some type of a pre-authorization that Medicare would require on that. So the answer is yes, but there may be pre-authorization involved with that, and that doc will know for sure. All right, let's keep going. Eliquis and Entresto got me to $2,000 on Plan D very quickly. Any suggestion how else to reduce the cost? All right, well, of course, when it comes to Eliquis and Entresto, very expensive brand name medications. And for those of you that are watching and say, what are they talking about, $2,000? Let me explain real quickly that when you're on a Part D plan, and by the way, this all began this year, January 1 of 2025, as we pay for our medications, that could be a deductible, it could be co-pays, it could be co-insurance, but those are our out-of-pocket. That's our cost sharing that we have to pay, and that is a limit now of $2,000 out of our pocket. That's what this person, Tim's, talking about. So if we're on brand name medications, such as these two here, for sure, it doesn't take long to get to $2,000. So once we have reached $2,000 out of our own pocket, then you no longer have to pay for any meds that are in formulary for the rest of the year. You're in what we call catastrophic phase, and there's zero out-of-pocket expense once you've reached the $2,000. All right, so any suggestions saving money? I can't think of any. At all, because since there is this cap, I don't think it would make any sense to try to get your medications, through some other kind of a, mail order pharmacy, Canada, India, or something like that. They may be a little bit cheaper, but you don't know about the quality. And secondly, that they would not be included in that $2,000 limit. It's got to be a medication that's in the formulary that you actually got through the plan. All right, so no suggestions on those. Now, I do know sometimes that people are on generic medications that instead of running those through their plan, sometimes they can use a GoodRx coupon and get a better price. Or maybe they could, there's the group called Single Care, Mark Cuban's, the Cost Plus drug company. Then you may be able to get some of those medications at a reduced cost. But on your expensive ones, you're almost always better off to run it through the plan because you'll hit that $2,000 cap, usually pretty quickly. All right. Part B started May. Employer-paid COBRA goes through February 26. Supplemental plan starts November 2025. So I have 4 months of COBRA and SUP plan overlap. Any issues with who the secondary payer would be? Well, interesting. Number one, it says employer-paid, so that's why you're keeping it. All right, so what'll happen is this. I think what's going to happen, original Medicare A and B is going to pay first. I think your supplemental plan will pay second. And if there's any balance remaining, I believe your COBRA provider is going to be in the third payer position. But here's my advice to you. If you go to any provider, any doctor, any hospital, be sure to give them all 3 cards because they will coordinate those. But I'm pretty sure that's the way it'd be. A and B first, SUP second, and then COBRA in the third payer position. All right, let's keep going. All right. Hello. I have both Medicare A and B, and do I need to get a supplemental plan for more coverage, especially in case I'm hospitalized? I sure would. I think that having A and B only is not a good option. Now, it's better than having nothing, but the problem with A and B only is that you're responsible for all the financial gaps that Medicare doesn't cover. And those can be substantial if you had an illness. Because remember, Medicare, other than preventive services, doesn't pay anything 100%. So if you go to the hospital, you're going to have to pay a deductible. If you're in the hospital more than 60 days, now you get into hospital copays. If you go to skilled nursing, Medicare only covers fully the first 20 days. After that, you have a daily copay. Right now, the average stay is about 37 days. On the B side, you have a deductible that Medicare won't pay, 20% coinsurance, which is the biggest gap, and then there's a possibility if you went to a doctor that added to the bill called excess, that 15% would then be on you. And so the whole point is you have substantial liability in the original Medicare system. So I would get a supplemental plan if I were you. I would get a G plan or an N plan. Both of them are good. G is a little bit more expensive than N. I think they're both great coverage. G is going to cover 5 of the 6 Medicare gaps, and then N covers 4 of the 6 Medicare gaps with a couple of very reasonable copays. Some markets, there's a big difference in premium between N and G. So if someone is more price conscious, using N is going to be a better option. If someone's not so price conscious, they just still want a good plan, then the most comprehensive plan is G. But truly, they're both very, very good options. They just kind of vary. In my market where I live, the difference between G and N is about $40 a month. Some markets, it's $100 a month, so very substantial. And so I look at a G plan or an N plan. And if you want more information about that, of course, you can call the toll-free number here. But also, I have on our website, MedicareSchool.com, I have an Essentials Workshop. And it's only 50 minutes long, and it'd be a great opportunity for you to go on there and really watch about your options. A and B is certainly one of them, but then supplemental plans would be my preference for sure. But there are sometimes people cannot afford or don't want to afford a supplemental plan, and then they will get an Advantage plan. And frankly, I think having an Advantage plan is even far better than having A and B. And the reason is because at least with the Advantage plan, we have a max out of pocket. with your A and B only, you don't have a max out of pocket. Sky's the limit. You have a serious health issue, you're responsible for 20% every single doctor bill. You've got deductibles on the A and the B, and so you've got a tremendous amount of financial exposure with A and B. So I would say next to A and B would be your Advantage plan, and then above that, as far as quality of coverage, would be a supplemental plan. So I would do one of those two. So if a supplemental plan works for your budget, that's what I would do. But if not, get that Advantage plan. Certainly better than A and B by itself. All right. If I delay my Part B enrollment for, say, a year until my 66th birthday and any time thereafter, is the MAGI used by Medicare to calculate my Part B and D premiums, or is it always 2 years back from age 65? Yeah, it's always going to be 2 years back. Those are recalculated on the annual basis. So if I'm on Medicare this year, 2025, they're looking at 2023. So if you put it off to your 66, let's say that's next year, that's 2026, they're going to look back at 2024. They always do that, but keep in mind, you actually can appeal that IRMA charge. So if your income is high because you are working and now you retired or semi-retired and that has brought your income down, then you have the right to appeal those surcharges. And so what you're saying is, don't look back 2 years. I've had a life-changing event last year or this year. I retired or semi-retired. The same thing would apply if a spouse dies or there's a divorce or there's a marriage. But if we have a life-changing event that causes our numbers to change, again, that could be a year ago or it can be this year, then they will drop off those IRMAs if we win that appeal. That's called appealing the IRMA. We do that with an SSA-44. SSA 44, and if you're our client, we'll walk you through that whole process, help you through it to make sure it's done properly. I heard the term similar to Easy Pay that would pull money directly from your Social Security to pay for Medicaid. Can this be done if you have a supplemental plan like G, for instance? Okay, so first off, Easy Pay has nothing to do with Social Security. So if a person goes on they're on Social Security and they go on Medicare A and B, then their Part B premium comes out of their Social Security check automatically the month they begin Medicare Part B. That is not Easy Pay. Okay, that's just the way the system works. If you're on Social Security, they will take your Part B premium out of Social Security. But if you're not on Social Security, you have a couple different ways to pay your Part B premium. You can be billed directly, which is quarterly, or you can set up Medicare Easy Pay. And you give the federal government the information on a checking or savings account, a routing number, and account number, and then instead of them billing you quarterly, then they will bank draft on a monthly basis. It's the 20th of the month. So if I'm on Medicare Easy Pay, then my July premium was pulled out of my checking account or savings account on the 20th of July. So it's an automatic withdrawal, just like a normal ACH or an EFT way to pay your premium. And then once you go on Social Security, they'll stop the Easy Pay system, and then it'll just start coming out of your Social Security check. All right, now when it comes to supplemental plans, no, they cannot be taken out of Social Security checks. 99% of all people will pay their supplemental plans through a bank draft. We'll give the insurance company a routing number and account number, and then you typically can pick the day you want to do the draft, sometime between the 1st and 15th. Some carriers will draft on the same day every month, like United Healthcare, they draft on the 5th day of the month. But the point is that will be some kind of an automatic draft, which is good. Because you wouldn't want to be in a direct bill, because what happens, I've seen people on direct bill didn't pay the bill, or they moved and mail took a while to get caught up, and you only have 30 days of grace. And so if you haven't paid your premium within 30 days, the insurance company has every right to cancel that policy, and they will only reinstate it in most states through underwriting. So if you don't pay it and you fail to pay the premium, they cancel the policy. Now you better be healthy or you're not going to be able to get that policy back. So that's why I like bank drafts when it comes to supplemental plans. All right. Going from Medicare Advantage plan back to regular Medicare. Is the supplemental plan Medigap that may require underwriting, or does going back to Medicare A and B? No. You can go back to original Medicare with no underwriting. Now, you have two opportunities to do that. Let's say you've been on your Advantage plan for, 2, 3, 4, 5 years or something. You can return back to original Medicare October 15th to December 7th later this year. Your Advantage plan would cover you through December 31. But the supplemental plan, if you got approved, will begin your coverage January 1. So the point is your Advantage plan is your coverage this year. But to switch and return back to original Medicare, you have to make that decision October 15th to December 7th. And so if you've been on your Advantage plan for more than a year, sometimes less, but you have to be able to medically qualify to make that switch. And so that's why we never cancel an Advantage plan until first we've gotten an approval through medical underwriting with that supplemental plan. So your question is, do A and B require underwriting? No. The only requirement you have is you have to have 40 quarters paid into Medicare A and B, and that's all you need to qualify. That's it. Okay, but supplemental plans, yes. If I've been in my Advantage plan beyond my trial right, then I do have to medically qualify in every state but 4. And that would be New York, Connecticut, Maine, and Massachusetts. They have some different rules. But everywhere else, you're going to have to medically qualify to switch back to original Medicare with the supplemental plan. All right, thanks. Good question. How do we notify SSA the marriage and for spouse eligibility and put on record before applying for Medicare during IEP? Okay, well, I would notify them before my IEP. Whenever you're going to get spousal, then what I would do is you want to call your local Social Security office about 4 months in advance of your birth month. 4 months is just about right. Call them, or maybe 5 months, whatever, and call them and actually set up for a phone appointment and tell them you're going to apply for Medicare under spousal. And then when they have that phone appointment, or you can go in person some places, but you have that appointment, then you want to make sure that you have your marriage license in hand, because you have to be, if you're drawing off a present spouse, the rules are have to be married for at least a year longer, and that spouse you're drawing benefits from has to be at least 62. And so that's all they're going to require. And they're going to require proof of marriage, which will be a marriage license to prove you've been married for over 1 year. And that's it. So as long as your spouse has 40 quarters, is at least 62, you have a marriage license, that's all you need. And they'll take all that information right over the phone, and they'll give you the opportunity to be able to mail that to them or download that to them. But that's the process. But to mail it in advance, I've never heard of that. I don't think you need to do that. I would just set the appointment up and take care of all that at the same time. You just make sure you have that marriage license at hand. I've had people who couldn't find it, had to order it. I had a gentleman out of Chicago. I think it took like 2.5 months before it ever came. So I would definitely make sure you have the proper documentation and then take care of that during the phone appointment. All right, let's keep going. All right, given their current issues, is UnitedHealthcare still a good choice for a Medicare plan? Well, I think so. But let me say this first. They would be one company that we would definitely look at. And in some markets, they're very competitive, some not so competitive. And so what I would do, I would look at all the different carriers, but it looks like that UnitedHealthcare is a good fit for you, then I personally would not be concerned about that. Listen, folks, every single insurance company has some type of a legal problem with the federal government. Right now, the big deal with UnitedHealthcare, of course, is they had a tremendous amount of denials for post-acute care on their Medicare Advantage plans, and that's what's gotten them in some hot water. They, like all the other companies, have been doing upcoding for years, and so they've been overpaid, and so there's a lot of issues going on with that. But trust me, all the insurance companies are having issues right now with the federal government in one fashion or another. Now, I would agree UnitedHealthcare may have more than others, but it would not cause me to avoid them. I'm telling you, they'll may be fine. They'll get that resolved, and they're going to keep pressing on. I mean, they're the largest company in America. 1 out of 3 people that are on Medicare are covered by some type of a UHC plan. So I would not avoid them because of this issue. I just would not. Okay. Now, as a stockholder, you may be a little disappointed in what's going on, but I still think they're a very strong company. But again, look at other options in your area to make sure they're competitive, because frankly, in some markets, they're just not. In fact, I just had someone the other day quoted them as well as another carrier, and they were about $60 a month higher than another very, very good carrier in that market. All right. So I wouldn't pay $60 extra. So anyways, do your homework. But again, I wouldn't avoid them if I were you. All right. How do you select the insurance companies that you write supplemental plans for? What criteria do you use? Well, Kenneth, there's a couple things we look at. Number one, we really prefer to go with national carriers There are some regional carriers, there's some smaller carriers, but what happens is if things do not go well for them financially within their groups, a lot of times they pull out of the market. Now, they still have to service those plans, but those plans are small and they continue to shrink. And so we look for carriers that are more national, ones that have been around a while. And so that's number one. Number two, we're looking for carriers and they're not just the initial premium they offer, but how they're stable, how their rates been in the last 10 years. Now, I know all of them have gone up substantially, unfortunately, here in the last couple of years, but we think that's going to stabilize eventually. And so I would look at the stability of their rates. So initial premium, stability of rates. We don't go with a carrier just because they have the best rates. Sometimes they have the best rates and they're very stable. But if they're just the best rate and they're kind of low-balling to catch premium, then we may expect a higher price increase from them than other carriers. So again, pay attention to stability of rates, and then are they regional or are they a national carrier? That's our criteria. All right, keep going. Here we go. What do you think about cost plans? Well, you know what? Honestly, I'm not too up to date on Medicare cost plans, and I'm sorry. I go through certifications every year, and we have to be quizzed on all those, but I have not written one, Cindy, all year long. Okay, so my bad on that. Daniel, if you want to Google and give me a few facts. I am aware of them, but I'm not sure all the details of them this year. So if he finds something, nothing. Okay. Hey, Cindy, I'm really, really sorry, but I just, like I said, I haven't written one this whole year, not even last year. So you have to do your own research on that and see what you think. Let's keep going. My bad. Sorry. Okay, well, first off, I really think, Bill, now you can verify this, but you're talking about State Farm. I would say this, I don't think they have a large enough market share. Now, by the way, they're a great P&C company for sure. But when it comes to the MedSup business, they have just recently got in the MedSup business, and I thought that they were actually writing all their MedSup plans through Allstate. And I think Allstate is pulling out of many, many markets. So if that's what they're still doing, I definitely wouldn't want to do that. And again, this is not State Farm's bread and butter. I would go with someone else. State Farm, again, great for P&C, but for MedSups, they're not going to capture enough of that business to really have good, stable rates. And again, I'm pretty sure it's going through Allstate. And so I've been reading some things lately about Allstate pulling out of the MedSup business. So again, when these companies want to come in for a little while, if they're not successful, then they fall away. And who gets hurt by that? The people who went on those plans, because there's not enough people in that group. And if they can't medically qualify to get off of them, now they're stuck on a plan that is shrinking. And those rates are really going to jump up. So it wouldn't be the direction I would go for sure. Okay? I just would not. All right, let's keep going. And by the way, your questions about comparing, you just call our company. You can call in an agent. We'll give you all the different carriers. We also have a site if you want to avoid an agent and just kind of look at prices called MedGapCompare.com. We own that company, MedGapCompare.com. And it's a place you can go in. You don't have to give it personal information. Just give them the zip code, your age, and your gender, and then we can shop all those rates for you. You can just see them all right there on your screen. Okay, so that's a great place to go. That's an AI tool that we use. We put it together. We own that, and then people use it all the time. So that's a second place if you didn't want to call in and talk to an agent. All right. New to Medicare, began in June. I have appointments with my doctors the next 2 months. What do I need to do to change my billing for my old insurance? I have A, B, and supplemental plan. Okay, well, behind the scenes, this should have already happened. Where what happens is whoever your employer was, they should have notified Medicare that policy is now canceled, and then your supplemental plan would have notified them that now they're in the secondary position. Now, if you're concerned that didn't happen, let me give you a number. It's called crossover, and I'll give you the number right now, so you can just call this and double check to make sure everything happened. But it's Medicare crossover, and that number is 855-798-2728. 855-798-2627. 855-798-2627. Now, folks, listen, that number is for somebody that's already has all their insurance set up. And if you're concerned that their records are not right for that first claim to come through, you can call that number and say, I just want to make sure that my work insurance is no longer showing up as covered, that Medicare is first, and my supplemental plan is second. So that number ought to be able to verify that for you. And if it's not correct, your verbal attestation, then they will correct that. It takes them about 10 days to get that in their system. But again, the majority of you watch this, you would not have to do that. 99 times out of 100, this all takes care of itself automatically. But every now and then, 1 out of 100 times, we'll see this didn't go through. So if that's your position, ma'am or sir, then that's the number you'd call to double check on that. Okay? All right, I heard regular Medicare is going to start testing with the pre-authorizations like Medicare Advantage. Not at all, okay? Not at all. In fact, we're in the process of shooting a video on this topic. So first off, right now, Original Medicare has 11 different types of services that they already do pre-authorizations. That's 11. They're going to add 17 to that. So that's a total of 28 different services within Original Medicare that are going to have pre-authorization. There's 7,000 codes. So 28 of those codes of 7,000 are now going to require pre-authorization. And trust me, the majority of those things you would not even be able to pronounce, okay? They are things that they have found that there's been a lot of abuse by providers, just some waste because of that. So again, we're talking about 28 individual services that will require pre-authorization. That is no comparison to Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage, now you take the 7,000 services, what they say, Medicare Advantage right now, about 27% of all the services someone needs on a Advantage plan will require the pre-authorization process. Simple things like MRIs, CAT scans, PET scans, those require pre-authorization with Medicare Advantage, never with a supplemental plan or Original Medicare A and B. A skilled nursing stay has to be pre-authorized. Any surgery, inpatient or outpatient, has to be pre-authorized by Medicare Advantage, never by Original Medicare. So just because they've added a handful of items, trust me, they're not becoming like Medicare Advantage. Now, your Medicare Advantage agents may try to spin it that way, but that absolutely is not true. And by the way, those 17 new services that they're adding 1/1 of 2026 and the 11 that they already have, every single one of those is a pre-authorization already by Medicare Advantage. Okay, and so again, and when you compare pre-authorization, it will still be a very rare occurrence on Original Medicare. It will happen over 25% of the time on Advantage plans. Okay, so again, I would not go on Advantage just because Medicare's added those 17 additional services at all. Trust me, I mean, most of them you don't even know what they are. A lot of nerve stimulation type services, skin grafting type things when it comes to artificial skin, those types of items. Okay, so again, very small list. When you think of 7,000 services, now you have 28 out of 7,000. So again, very minimal. All right, let's keep going. Bettina, yes, we are free. In fact, any agent's free, just so you know. Now, we don't work for free, but you don't pay us. Bettina, the insurance companies always pay the agent, whether that's a captive agent, a broker, the insurance companies pay us. It's the cost of them doing business. And really the way to look at it, it's no different, you all, than your homeowner's agent or the auto policy, that agent who wrote that automobile policy. No one works for free, but we are not paid by you. We're actually paid a commission by the insurance companies. Okay, so all of our services are truly, totally free to you, and you get a lot with us because we'll help you with everything, not just write a plan. Okay, great question, though. All right, Joe, working for a large employer. My plan is Cigna. I'm not on Social Security. I'm 67. I have Part A. Do I need Part B? Do I need a separate drug plan? Is it easy to get Part B, G, and D when I retire? Okay, yeah, you work for a large employer. By Medicare definitions, that's 20 employees or more on the payroll. So no, you don't have to do anything. I think you made a good choice. You have Part A. And I encourage people, unless they have an HSA, health savings account, to get Part A when you turn 65. You don't get it because you're going to be penalized, because that's not the issue. You get it because your employer pays first, Part A will pay second, and they will pay co-insurance on a hospital claim. So that's why I like Part A only. Now listen, if you still have an HSA, don't do anything. Don't do A, don't do B. You won't be penalized, and keep contributing money to your HSA. And then when you get ready to retire, you want to be sure that you have stopped those HSA contributions 6 months prior to enrollment, not effective date, but enrollment date. Okay, and so Joe, my advice to you: do nothing. It'll be very easy to do Medicare B and get your drug plan and your supplemental plan. In my time frame, I tell people the best time to do that is about 90 days prior to your retirement. So let's say you're going to retire October 31. Back up the clock, September, August, July, and then you're in that 90-day window. Then you can start doing the SCP paperwork, pick out your drug plan, pick out your supplemental plan. It's a very smooth transition. Employer plans ends October 31, and all your other coverage starts November 1st. It's very, very easy to do, and we'd be delighted to walk you through the entire process. Okay, that 60 to 90-day window is just right prior to retirement. All right. Do you have agents, brokers in? In fact, we write in all 50 states and D.C., Rob. So we are everywhere. Anywhere you live, we can take care of you. Okay? Licensed agents everywhere. All right. Why is the supplemental plan so expensive in New York? Well, here's why. A couple of reasons, Robert. Number one, because the insurance department requires all insurance companies to rate their policies with a community rating. Community rating means that everybody in that locale could be counties, it could be a couple zip codes, but everybody getting a supplemental plan, regardless of their age, health status, their gender, gets the same price. Community rating. That means the 65-year-old pays the same price as the 85-year-old. So in other words, they have to average that out. So the 85-year-old is getting a bargain, and the 65-year-old is truly paying too much. So it's a community-rated state. I think there's 8 of them in the country. That's number one. Number two, because New York has open enrollment year-round, you can get any supplemental plan you want to, any company that you want to, with no underwriting. New York has forced these insurance companies to take everybody. Well, you're not going to force insurance companies to have that kind of risk. So what you have is you have very few carriers that want to write business in New York. In fact, there's just 1 or 2. And so that has driven the price up because of that. Community rating, and there's no competition whatsoever. And so I think the insurance commissioners in these states that do this, they think they're helping the consumer, but they're not. They're actually hurting the consumer. Very sad. But these companies, you're not going to force them to lose money. And when you force an insurance company to lose money, they're going to pull out of the market, and that's really the result of it. You have no selection at all in that state. So sad. It's just really sad that happens, but that's reality in New York. All right, yes. Okay, so is the G plan required to pay the 20% that Medicare A or B does not pay for any given hospital or doctor fee? And the answer is yes. Now, just to clarify, Part A, the hospital side, does not have 20% co-insurance. It has deductibles and co-pays for extended hospital stays and co-pays for extended skilled nursing stays. But yes, your supplemental plan G and your N would pay all of that on the A side. Okay, so yes. Now on the B side, that's where your 20% comes in for doctors. And so what happens is supplemental plan G will cover all of that as well, because supplemental plan G covers every gap but one, and that's the Medicare B deductible. And this year, that's $257. So if you have a G plan, you pay the first $257 on the B side, all the outpatient, all the doctor services, and then your plan pays 100% after that. If you had an N plan, it too would pay the 20%, but you would pay the deductible, and with N plan, you have $20 co-pays every time you see a doctor. So with G, you don't have that. You have once a year B deductible, N, once a year B deductible. It will not cover excess, and you have $20 co-pays to the doc. That's the difference. All righty. I worked with your agent, Andrew, today, and got set up with a heart attack and stroke insurance coverage. I can feel much better, informed and confident. That's wonderful. Yeah, those are called critical illness plans. They are very affordable, And it's also nice because instead of the insurance company paying the provider, if you have a claim, you actually get cash on that kind of a situation. So I'm not sure what plan you have, maybe 10,000, 5,000, whatever. But yeah, those are called critical illness plans. So that's great. And Andrew's a good guy, very, very knowledgeable as well. Appreciate the encouragement as well. All right, Mark, sorry I joined late. Here's my question. I will begin going to TRICARE for life. I'm also 100% service-connected VA disability. Would an Advantage plan like USA Honors be a good option for me and my wife? Okay. I like the Honors plan. I think that these plans give you some benefits that TRICARE does not. Of course, TRICARE is awesome, and you served our country. I'm glad you have that benefit. So what a lot of people do in your position is when you enroll into Advantage plan, remember, Mark, you're still going to get your medications through TRICARE. And because you're doing that, then that insurance company, that Medicare Advantage company, they don't have to cover your meds, so they take some of that money that they get from the federal government and they give that back to you in the form of a Part B reduction. And that's very, very attractive. And so anyone that has VA, anyone that's at TRICARE or both, or is actually retired civil service, FEHB can do the very same thing. And so I think it is a good option. And for your wife as well, no problem at all. And the neat thing about your situation, Mark, is that if you don't like that decision, any year during Medicare open enrollment season, you can always return back to traditional original Medicare with TRICARE only. Okay, you can go back and do that. The majority of VA people, TRICARE people, love that option. So you'd probably stay on it long term. But if you decide you didn't, it's not like you're making a lifetime decision here at all. All right, great question. Okay, if you have a MedSup G with Company A and want to switch to B, Supplemental G is underwriting required. Well, it just depends on where you live. There are some states, about a dozen of them, that it's not required for you to go through underwriting at a certain time of the year, normally around your birthday. They actually call these birthday rule states. And the birthday rule states state this, that a period of time before your birthday or after your birthday, maybe 30 days before or after, 30 days after. We have some states that it's 60 days from your birthday, but this period of time around your birthday, you can change supplemental carriers, meaning you can move from United Healthcare to Aetna, or you can move from Cigna to Humana, whoever. You make these moves, you can change carriers, and you can change plans like to like or like to less. So if you're on a G in a birthday rule state, you typically can move to another G or to an N. Now, if you're on an N, you can't move up to a G without underwriting, but you can make that vertical move. That'd be vertical, be horizontal. Yeah. Horizontal move, G to G. Or you can go to a less of a plan with no underwriting around your birthday. Now, those states are, off the top of my head, California, Oregon, Washington. Washington, by the way, is not birthday rule. They allow this all 12 months of the year. The state of Idaho, Nevada, Oklahoma, Illinois, Missouri, it's called anniversary rule, Louisiana, Kentucky, Maryland, and Virginia. Those are your birthday rule states. And then New York, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, they're not called birthday rule states. They have other open enrollment periods. But again, kind of the same concept. So those of you that are kind of new to all this, what we're saying is that if you live in one of these states that has a birthday rule and you want to switch supplemental plans, it doesn't mean get one, it means switch plans. You're already on and you want to switch. We can move like to like or like to less with no underwriting. Now, the truth is you can change the supplemental plan in all 50 states anytime you want to, but as long as your health is good. If you have bad health, then hopefully you live in a birthday rule state. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to switch. But as long as you're healthy, you're not bound to the birthday rule at all. You can switch anytime you want to switch. We just have to ask you some health questions, check your medications, submit that to the underwriting department, and then the company would approve you. All right. But if you have terrible health, then you'd be restricted then to those period of days around your birthday where there's no underwriting required. Okay. But the majority of states do not have birthday rules. All right, can a husband and wife get on the same Medigap plan, or do we have to have separate plans? No, you can use the same company in the same plan if you want to, but there's no couple plan. What there is with couples is there's a couple different discounts. We can get what's called a household discount, and then we can get a multi-policy discount. Household discount means that you live with someone or you're married, and they're at least 50. Multi-policy means that both of you are with the same company. You both have plans with United Healthcare or with Aetna or with Cigna or whoever. They'll give you an extra discount because you're both with the same carrier. Now, one spouse could be on a G and one could be on an N. You don't have to be on the same plan. You're just with the same carrier. So again, household says, I don't live alone. I get a discount for that. Multi-policy says we're both on Medicare and we're with the same particular carrier. So those are great discounts, sometimes up to 20%. All right, Jody, officially retired. Today's last day employed. Well, congrats on that. Medicare school team took good care of me getting Social Security and Medigap set up. Still need help. Confused on what type of financial advisor to work with. All right, well, my view is that I think it's best, or I'll say this, my preference would be to use someone that's is truly a fiduciary that is going to make recommendations based upon your best interests, not ours. We're our fiduciary. And so if that's something you want us to help you with, we do that all the time, but that would be one of my criteria. Am I dealing with someone that is in a fiduciary relationship with me? Whatever they recommend, is it in my best interest? And then, no one works for free, and so if you do assets under management, there's always some kind of a fee for that. You get something for that fee, but then again, I'd want something that's going to be very competitive. Those are normally range anywhere from about 1 to 1.5%. So that would be very reasonable. All right, so again, we'd be happy to help, but again, those are the kind of questions that I would ask. All right, will Medicare School help discern if corporate coverage could be disadvantaged? Absolutely. Yeah, just call in and tell the agent that you have a group plan option. You'd like to know if that is a better option than Medicare, and they will be honest with you. They'll ask you questions such as, what's your premium? What's your deductible? Do you ever meet it? Do you have co-insurance? Are you happy with the network? What's your max out of pocket? There's a variety of things that we will ask, and then kind of lay those side by side with your Medicare option, and we'll tell you. If it's a great group plan, all the time I tell people, hey, that's a good plan. Stay right where you are. No problem. But if it's lousy or mediocre or average, then sometimes Medicare makes sense. Now, keep in mind, it's not just a decision that is based upon your situation. We also, do you have a spouse covered by the group plan or children covered up to age 26? So we want to make sure that we know the impact of a move to Medicare, how that would impact other family members if indeed that would be the case. Okay, is WellCare a good company? Well, I don't think WellCare is a bad company. I do think that WellCare has some issues, for sure. I would be looking at their star ratings. And by the way, there's not that many 5-star plans out there, so I'm not saying every plan should be 5-star, but I certainly like to work with companies that are going to be somewhere between 3 to 4 stars anyways. And so I think I would look at that. Of course, WellCare is owned by Centene, and they've had some excessive medical loss ratios lately, so I don't know what their plans are going to look like next year. So they don't offer supplemental plans. They only offer Advantage plans, and then they offer Part D plans. And so this year, they do have a 0 premium Part D plan. We have, I think we counted last year, we had 25,000 people on that plan. And so I think it's a good plan. It's a good formulary. But I wouldn't get that plan just because it's 0 premium. I'd get it because it's a good fit for the medications you take. So it's kind of a tough question, because Medicare, WellCare is fine in some instances. Other times, just not so good. But we certainly write for them, and sometimes it would be a good fit. So I wouldn't avoid them just because it's WellCare. I'll say it that way. But in every situation, are they the best? No. There could be a better fit for you. All right, let's keep going. All right. Currently covered from Blue Shield. I still need to get family coverage as my wife does not work, and we still have a teenager home. Any advice? Okay. Covered California Blue Shield. So what I would do if I were in your position, I'm assuming I guess you're no longer working. So I would, I know California has its own exchanges, and so I would just call them and find out what it's going to cost to get your wife covered, and find out what your other options are. If you want to call in and talk to one of our agents, they could probably give you a little bit more clarity In California, we write on all 50 states for sure, and so we've got lots of agents who would be really better versed at this than me, but call in and they could tell you kind of what is some of the best options available. So if you want to call in, we can certainly take the time to look at those for you and give you that advice about your children and your spouse. All right. I understand that if I want to change from one G plan to a different company because my current company has gotten too expensive, I got to go through underwriting change. Is that true if my G goes out? Okay. Jeff, if you're not in one of those birthday rule states, then it is true. To move from G from one company to another will require medical underwriting. So again, if you're not in California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Missouri, Louisiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Virginia, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, Maine, or Massachusetts, then you are going to have to go through medical underwriting for sure. Okay. And by the way, Jeff, just so you know, there are some carriers that tend to be a little bit more lenient in certain areas. We have one carrier that if you take medication for depression more than 2 years, they decline you. Majority of carriers would be fine with that. We have some carriers that won't even look at you if you're an insulin-dependent diabetic. We have others that will, as long as you don't take more than 50 units a day. So there's different underwriting criteria per company. So we'd be happy to look at your situation to see if there's a carrier out there that would approve you. All right, now if you're in the midst of cancer treatment, no one's going to take you. But we'd be happy to go through those health questionnaire to see if we can't find a carrier that we could get you through underwriting. As agents, we don't make the final decision, but we got a pretty good idea based upon what the carriers are looking for, the medications that are acceptable and not. All right, Carolyn, if you had difficulty signing up for Medicare and supplemental plan through no fault of your own due to not being able to see in a timely manner and had to accept the Part C, can you upgrade? Okay. Well, I'm assuming what you're saying is that you enrolled, your A and B came a little bit later than normal. I have never seen anyone win that because here's what happens. You had from your B date 6 months to sign up for a supplemental plan. And so the only thing I could think of is if they backdated your B date for some reason, you went beyond that 6 months, then that's a real bummer. I hope that's not what you're talking about here. But as a general rule, the answer to your question is no. Okay? I've never seen them change the B date, meaning move it forward. I've never seen a supplemental company say, okay, we'll allow this one-time exception. So really the only way to do that is when you come around through the open enrollment season, October 15th to December 7th, or January 1 to March 31, when we have those seasons, we can make those moves. As long as we can get you through medical underwriting, then you can make that switch. But to upgrade and change because of the issue that was created when you first went on Medicare, never seen that happen ever. So I don't think it will. All right, Mary, I'm 65, staying on my employer plan. Can I start Medicare supplemental any time, or does it have to be when I retire? Well, it should be when you retire. So let's say you're going to work 2 more years and you're going to retire, 2 years from now, July 31, 2027. Then what I would do is about 60 to 90 days prior to my retirement date, I would get all my paperwork set up so that I would start my supplemental plan August 1 of 2027. So technically, though, as long as, Mary, you've had coverage when you retire all the way back to 65 with no gaps in coverage. So if you retire at 67 and we can prove you've had credible coverage all the way back to 65, that's called an SEP eligibility, special enrollment period. And it is open for you from 8 months from the time you lose your employer plan, 8 months, okay? Now, I would tell you I would never use the 8 months, ever. And the reason for that is because if once you've lost your group plan, then you either have no insurance or you have COBRA. And so COBRA only pays second, Medicare pays first, and if you don't enroll into Medicare, now you become the first payer. So very risky for you to go without insurance once that group plan is over. But technically, you do have 8 months, okay? And still to come into Medicare B, because that SEP enrollment lasts 8 months from when your employment coverage ends, as long as you had it back to 65, okay? So wouldn't advise it though, but you could do it. Is that it? Okay, folks. Hey, we appreciate you watching. We'll do this every Thursday night, 5 o'clock, with some exceptions. Sometimes I'm out of town and have schedule conflicts. But if we can help in any way, please call in, and we'd be delighted to serve as your broker. Again, go to medigapcompare.com, and you can look at rates as well. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.